Welcome to Peter and Ruffy's Sports Week here on STV. The main talking points on tonight's extended programme. Kenny Miller says they have the belief to win the first Old Firm League derby of the season. Patrick Roberts says he's looking forward to the match against Rangers and he isn't thinking about that sitter in their previous encounter. And Hearts manager Robbie Neilson says he's quite happy for his side just to go under the radar. They could go joint top of the Premiership by the end of the weekend. That's just a few of the talking points we're going to discuss tonight on the extended programme. Alan Ruff is alongside me, Peter Martin, and I'm delighted to say a former Celtic midfielder, Paul Lambert, is our bootroom guest tonight to talk all things Old Firm as well as some of the other key games over the weekend as well, not only in the Premiership but Championship, League One and League Two. Kenny Miller has sampled more than a few Old Firm games, Ruffy, on either side. He could be crucial.
I think he will be crucial. You know, that we've saw what he brings to the game. You know, that he has that wonderful knack, as all good strikers have, of getting a goal when needed most. And he's done it all the way through his career, even at club level and international level. So I think he could be a big player for the new Rangers manager, and Celtic would have to keep their eyes on him.
Yep. The other thing I was going to say to you, Paul, Kenny, he's sampled it on both sides, and he's talking obviously up Rangers' chances on this one, because quite simply I think the expectation might all be on Celtic because they're red hot favourites. Rangers are 5-1 with some bookies.
Yeah, you can understand that because they've just come up the league, and they're probably not as strong as Celtic, I don't think, at the minute. I think everybody knows any Old Firm game, Peter, anything can happen. Over the course of the season, you still expect Celtic to win the league, but an Old Firm game, anything can happen. He's got to put the pressure on Celtic somewhere, it's through verbal or actually playing the game. You've got to try and put a little bit of pressure on him.
Yep, and of course, Kenny, more experienced than most at handling the press and the build-up to this, and he also said that the first crunching tackle could be key.
Experiencing it as a player is different, but as a fan watching it, it's I think you get a little insight into what it can be like. Even in terms of the noise, like just the first act of the Old Firm game, and I remember was it Barry Robson and Christian Daly after about 3 seconds where there was a head to in a game. So I think just to look at it and watch it as a fan, you know what it means to both sets of players, to both clubs and to both sets of fans. So there's no doubt it's hard to prepare for, but I'm sure quick enough our lads will find their feet and find their game.
Paul Lambert, there was a time when the first crunching tackle was free in an Old Firm game, but not anymore, and highly unlikely with the referee Willie Collum.
No, I think what I always found in them is you play with your head. You've got to play with your head. You play the game, not the occasion. I always felt that going into them, and if you do that, I think everything falls into place. If you go and try and you want to say cement somebody, the old-fashioned Scottish word, cement somebody or lay your mark on them, it can go against you in certain ways. But if you play with your head and you play with a calmness, you come through it. And I think if you go around kicking people, or you want to, so the crowd will be up for it anyway. The crowd will not need somebody to make a tackle to get up for it, because the crowd will bounce off each other.
You know, you're too sensible ahead of an Old Firm game, I have to tell you. I ran into one of your ex-teammates the other day there, and Alan Thompson says the players need to keep a lid on it and not see the red mist, well, which I know is going to bring a smile to your face.
No, it's funny, you just remember me. I remember myself and Stefan Kloss had a fight in the penalty area at the Celtic end at Ibrox, and he was one of my best mates. And I forget it, we actually got a penalty, and Stefan held the ball, and I was trying to grab it from him, but the way it happened, the two of us fell on the ground, and it became pretty. So that last statement I gave you there, just ignore it. But I think that the emotion takes it, and you do get caught up in it. Listen, and you try, and as I said before, the best way to play it is play with your head, but you do get caught up in certain aspects of it. And I remember Stefan called me after the game. He said, "What you some sort of madman?" I said, "Well, it's the nature of the game." That was, you know. But everybody realises Old Firm is really important to people. Of
course, you're one of those rare players, and Ruffy might not remember this, but you're one of those rare players that almost lost all of your teeth in an Old Firm game.
Yeah, and Do you know what? I get asked that question, and I'm going to say, and I know Ruffy's a goalkeeper, and I say to Jonathan Gould, the reason I got my teeth knocked is because of him, because the first 15, 20 minutes of that game, he was a bag of nails, and I thought if I don't slide in, I think Alberts is going to shoot. And the way Goldie was first 10, 15 minutes, I thought this could go in, and that's why I slid in, and then that's what happened.
But it's not necessarily the people that you think is going to be in bother. There are some games where you go, it could be a fullback, it could be a winger. You know, everybody's focusing on obviously, you know, Scott Brown and Joey Barton, but it could be somebody else, somewhere else in the park who just feels there's a 50-50 there, then they need to win it to get themselves set in for the rest of the game.
Yeah, I mean, I was talking, down south this morning to some of the English media, and you would think there were only two players playing in the game. You know, Joey Barton and Scott Brown as a head-to-head here, which more often than not, height it's not actually matched by what evolves in the game.
It won't. It's just because the two characters are Leslie Fiery. That's all it is. But you'll probably find they two will probably try and just focus on their own games. As Alan said there, it could be somebody, it could be pure obscure that you think, where's that came from? Because the game might, or the occasion might affect them more than they two lads, you know. So it's difficult to say where an incident will happen.
Yeah, sometimes it can be a positive thing which leaves a memory for everyone. We'll talk about your significant part in a couple of Old Firm games, but of course the last time the two sides met, Rangers came out on top winning 5-4 in penalties. There were a few moments in the game that could have changed the outcome. One of course was Patrick Roberts, who missed an open goal and a complete sitter. As you would expect at a press conference, somebody had to ask him about it.
Can be a can. I mean, you don't worry about them too much. It doesn't faze me a lot. Obviously, for myself, I know it was a bad miss, and it happens in football. I mean, it happens all the time. You can miss something like that. Just try to do it too perfect, and it didn't come off. So, next time that'll be in the back of the net. So, yeah.
I don't think that matters, Ruffy, if you miss one. You know, at the end of the day, players, just put that to the back of their mind, unless, it's constantly regurgitated.
Yeah, well, if he does it again tomorrow, I think then he'll have to start worrying about how people don't forget these things in these games. You know, that one obviously is in the past now, but I think he's got good ability. You know, I think you've got to have the mental strength to move on. But if that similar chance comes along, he's only human. You know, if it's a tap in for whatever, it's going to be, this is what I did the last time, but you're just going to hope that he just puts his foot through the ball and hits the back of the net. Yeah,
I mean, it is key, to try and, as you say, keep a calm head and start to try and block things out. Ian Durant earlier in the week said, the key for him was getting involved in the game rather than watching it pass you by.
You can't let it pass you by, that's for sure. I think you've got to influence it. You've got to go and, listen, it doesn't really matter. No firm game, you've got to be able to take the ball. You've got 60,000 expecting you to take it, and being a midfielder, and Ian was a great midfielder himself, that you've got to get involved in the game, especially to try and make an impact in it. And if the game does pass you by, then you probably find out pretty quickly you're not making an impact in it.
Yeah. Did you sense from any player, you mentioned there about Jonathan Gould might have been a bag of nerves, but did you sense from other players that, wait a minute, this is too big for them, this is...
No, I was fortunate. The years I played in, and the lads I played with were mentally strong and good characters that could handle big games. Big game players could handle it. And I'll sign that, Peter, anyway. Big game players will handle big occasions. The younger ones, you look at young lad Roberts, he might be a really confident kid and think, if that ever happens to me again, I'll not do it. Might not. It might happen again. He's only a young kid. So the whole Old Firm experience is a different kettle of fish for any league game he wants to play in, because it's mayhem it starts.
The good thing that Paul brought up there, the good thing is for the experienced players to notice the guys who it's going to affect. Not everybody's going to stroll through this game. There are going to be maybe 3 or 4 are going to get caught in the headlights. It's up to the experienced players to, as Paul just said there, he try to help Jonathan Gould out, but there will be players tomorrow will need help from other people.
Just briefly, Ruffy, before we hit the break, 11 o'clock tomorrow morning is when we will have a real insight into whether he's going to take a chance on Griffiths.
Yeah, well, I think we'll sort down that we don't know the inner, how bad it is or anything like that, but you just have to look through even big games. I think it was a European Cup final. One of the teams took a chance on somebody, centre forward wasn't it? Was it Costa, and they lasted 10 minutes?
Yeah.
You know, these are decisions managers are going to have to make. You know the worth that he's got to the team, but there is long term. You know, he will 100% believe that they can win without Lee Griffiths. You know, but I'm sure they'd want him in it.
It's a big decision to make, big call. We'll hear from Brendan Rodgers after the break on that particular call on his centre forward. We'll also hear from the Rangers manager, Mark Warburton. He's stressed the fact that it is just another 3 points. Where have we heard that before? Welcome back to Peter and Ruffy's Sports Week. Alan Ruff is with me, Peter Martin, looking ahead to the weekend's football in the company of our boot room guest, I'm delighted to say, the former St Mirren, Motherwell, Borussia Dortmund and Celtic midfielder Paul Lambert. Have I missed any club out there? Did I miss one?
No,
I think we've nailed it. I think we've got them all in
enough.
there. Isn't it amazing that we're asking about the cauldron of an Old Firm game and when you can handle the pressure? Of course, how different was it from a Champions League final to your debut in an Old Firm game?
No, I was 25, 26 when I was in Dortmund, so I was in a good age and a good time. Plus, I had great players running about me as well, and once I started playing their team every week, you became super confident. So the Old Firm for me was no problem to handle. It was easy. It was easy to handle that occasion because I was used to playing in big games. Champions League final, I just remember myself going out the tunnel and at the Olympic Stadium, you know, and you've got the UV players on your right hand side, you know, and you're thinking, if there's ever one game that you've got to win, this is it. Don't let this game pass. We're talking about games pass you by.
Yeah.
That was one game that you never ever wanted to pass you by. So there's not many people from Scotland that have won it. I'm in good company with Souness and John Robertson, people like that, and Hansen. So when you have a big moment in a big game, and I always think, as I said to you before, big players perform in big games. And at that time, I knew I had to perform in that occasion, in that arena.
And what can you remember? Because this is something that the players tomorrow will have to remember. Every manager has to put those words into your head to stick with you. I imagine you had a specific role in that final.
I remember the night before, Otmar Hitzfeld was brilliant at predicting who you're going to play against. Brilliant at it. He virtually knew who you're going to come up against, what players you're going to come up against. But you didn't have to be Einstein to know you were going to come up against Zidane. That was the role, and I remember Otmar just said, if he's in your area, make sure you look after him. And that was as simple as that. He didn't have to coach me. 25, 26, you shouldn't really need coaching at that age. I just had a great inner belief in myself that I could match it. But as I said before, I had world-class players running about me to help me.
Yeah. This game tomorrow, not doing a disservice to many of the players, not quite at the level of player that you played with in some Old Firm games of the past, but the intensity, the outcome of it is also important to everyone. The Rangers manager Mark Warburton yesterday was speaking ahead of the game, and of course he realises the importance of trying to take something from the game, and of course he tried to emphasise the fact that it's just another 3 points.
You're never going to understate the significance of this game. We recognise the importance of the city and the football world. It's one of the big derbies in world football. There's no doubt about that. So of course you look forward to it. Where would you rather be playing, in front of 5,000 or in front of 60,000 here, or 50,000 at Ibrox? So undoubtedly we're looking forward to the occasion, and we've signed players who relish this type of fixture. Absolutely, but don't lose sight of the fact that it's just another 3 points. It has to be that way. It's not 5 points. There's no 7 points for winning. There's no point winning Saturday and losing your following 2 games. So it's about making sure it's one game at a time and recognising it's just another 3 points.
I like what the Rangers manager's got to say more often than not. The two guys seem very calm characters. Mark Warburton one side, Brendan Rodgers the other. You're not getting any real inflammatory lines coming out of them. But if I was to pick up on one thing, I think Mark will quickly learn that it's not just another 3 points, Ruffy.
No, in the tables it'll be 3 points, but it's the aftermath of not getting the 3 points. It's having to walk into the dressing room. I'm sure Paul would agree with me on that one. It's walking into the dressing room, it's picking up the players who have just lost the game. It's seeing them on Monday and it's having them all that week, you know, because they'll be on a downer. The supporters will be on a downer. It's a massive job. It's something that the result sticks. It sticks until the next game. So you've got to take all that into consideration as well.
Yeah. As far as the two teams that are placed, there's one big decision that we talked about in the first part of the programme, which is, of course, Lee Griffiths, 40 goals last season, 7 already this term. Will the manager take a gamble on him?
Once we get the scan through and have a look at that, we just need to look at what the risk would be in him playing in the game. Of course, if there's a risk for longer term, then we can't do it because it's a long season, even though it feels like we've been playing for months already. So, but he's been in great form, Lee. But for whatever reason, if he didn't make it, I think what hopefully you've seen with the squad and what I said at the beginning of the season was that we needed to have goals all the way around the team. And that's how it's been for us. So, but of course he's an outstanding young player and has started the season very well. But we'll see how he is.
You're a manager of some stature. Would you throw him in if there was a slight hamstring worry?
Probably same take as Brendan there. I think it's really early in the season. Listen, you can view it both ways. It's early in the season. He doesn't play, Celtic will still be strong up top, I think. So if he plays and he runs the risk of long-term injury, I'm pretty sure Brendan wouldn't play him. But I think if it's only a short term, I think he might go with him. But if it has long-term risk, I don't think he'll play him.
Yeah, with a hamstring, usually, you know, if you have a tear, 4-6 weeks, Ruffy, it's a big gamble.
Yeah, but you have to know how bad it is, a tear. You know, I mean, as I said earlier, we're sitting here, we don't know. The player knows. The player knows, you know, like I can say I'm fit here and get carried away with the occasion, but to say, yeah, I'm okay, and then break down 9 minutes into the game is just letting the rest of your teammates down. So there has to be a decision, not just made by the player, but made by everybody, and they have to get it right. Because I've said on earlier on, there's been tons of big games where people have been thrown in, and they don't last that long, and then all of a sudden you're changing the whole team system round about. But I agree with Paul. I think there's enough guys in there, given the chances that Celtic will create, that could put it in the back of the net.
Okay, it's a difficult one to call. I think you can go back many years when two Old Firm managers were asked, what do you think the score would be? I think Jock Stein said only a fool would predict the outcome of an Old Firm game, and Davy Wilson said 2-1 Rangers. so it's going to be difficult. I did look at some of the newspapers this morning, and one thing in particular, a news story that came out over the course of the day, was one Celtic fan has bid £10,000. He's put it on at the bookies. £10,000 on Celtic to win. You know, in an Old Firm game, you know, the amount of players that we've spoken to this week, Paul, who have said they've gone into a game red hot favourites and come out of it thumped.
You can't predict it. I mean, the last time they played the one at Hampden, nobody expected that. And to be fair to Rangers, the Rangers were a better team.
Yeah.
Did you have to go through? Whether it was extra time or penalties or 90 minutes, Rangers were the better team. They played better than Celtic that day. So you hold your hand up when you've been beat with the better side, but I think at Parkhead it'll be a different game, different set of players, different managers, or Brendan being a different manager first time. Listen, I guarantee, doesn't matter if Brendan's been, even my time when Brendan was at Swansea and where he was at Liverpool, their clubs won't prepare him for what he's going to go into this one, because he'll know you have to win it.
Yeah.
He's got to win it.
Yeah, and the key to it all is the pressure of it. You know, Rangers win it again. It gives a massive surge of belief to the players, Ruffy, who are continually told they have the better squad. You guys are just coming up. You should be maybe happy with fourth, third, or second. What a lift it would give them. And the flip side of that is if Celtic win at home, and you know, there could be 7 points clear once they play their game in hand. That's a lot to ask.
Yeah, and I'm sure that's what the Rangers manager will be saying to the players, and quite rightly so. You know, there's nothing worse than everybody telling you you're second best, and the manager saying, look, you just need to go out and prove them wrong, and that will be the incentive for the Rangers players to go out there. But as we've all you don't know what's going to happen in any given day. I mean, you go into a game and there's been games, Rangers Celtic games, that one of the teams has scored in the first minute, and then the whole game's flipped on its head. There's been 6-2, there's been 5-1, score lines that we've never even said. How did that happen? You know, and that's what we all love about this game. It's the unexpected, and let's hope the unexpected is on the football field. That's what we want to see. We want to see goals.
Yeah, I think you won 6-2 in one game, scored, Paul, and then you got thumped 5-1 in the return game.
Did we?
Yeah.
Right, was it that?
Yeah,
Was that right? I can't remember that.
Oh, you've eradicated that one. Forgotten all about it, eh?
No, oh, you're right. You're right, because I was injured. No, honestly, that's exactly right. And so we did. We got beat 5-1, and because I think Lenny signed not long after that game, the 5-1 game.
Yeah.
Because I was going to be out. I had a stress fracture, I think, in this my shin, and Lenny signed just after that game. I think the gaffer brung Lenny in to solidify the middle of the pitch, and the rest is history to say. But the 6-2 game was surreal, because it was the gaffer's first game, and obviously Dick's first game, and again against a good Rangers. And we were 3-0 up after 11 minutes. But I think that game gave us a marker of, well, we're going to be a team to beat for the next few years.
Yeah.
And it was proven. It was, because Celtic dominated the early part of that under the gaffer a few years, but we were strong, we were big, and a really good side.
Yeah, absolutely. If Paul was still playing now, I could see the back page headline, Lambert blames his teammates for 5-1 defeat. We're going to talk other Premier League teams, including Hearts, whether they could go joint top of the league. That's coming up next. Welcome back to Peter and Ruffy's Sports Week. Our bookroom guest is former Celtic player Paul Lambert. We've been talking about the Glasgow derby, Ruffy. Having lived in Edinburgh for a fair few years, 12 years, there was nothing more irritating when the focus of attention was on a big game like that, and everyone else thought, they've been completely and utterly forgotten about. With this Hearts team, Robbie Nielsen's quite happy to go under the radar, because they could go joint top depending on which way the result of the derby at Celtic Park.
Yeah, I thought Hearts had a really hard start to the season, probably the hardest of all the top four sides, to have Celtic at home, which I thought they played particularly well. Going away to Aberdeen and getting an earth each draw was treated as a bad result, but there's not many people who go up there and do that. But ever since then, Tony Watt coming in, they've had wins under their belt, they're looking good, they're looking sharp. So I think they'll be quite happy, taking the pressure off them and just sitting there and gathering points. And as you say, they've got a home game tomorrow, if they were to win that. And sometimes that can just help you.
And as a shrewd cookie as a manager, he has mentioned Tony Watt. He's been a good signing for them. He's got an international call up there. And I think Robbie Nielsen's just said, well, listen, there's another big game coming up for Scotland. You've just got to keep scoring goals. You scored against Partick Thistle. Now you've got to build on that and show the consistency over this next month.
I had Tony at Blackburn, Peter, on loan, and I took him from Charlton. And great ability, and I think he knows himself to apply himself probably better as a professional footballer. But no doubt in the lad's ability. He's got ability in abundance when he puts his mind to it. He's a strong lad as well, and he has got a talent. There's no two ways about it. And he got a bad injury for us down there, and it finished him his loan spell pretty early. We had to send him back to Charlton before the end of the season, and but he done great for me at Blackburn, Tony Watt. And if he, I don't know if you want to call it, screw the head a little bit,
yeah,
and take a lot of things in that people are trying to help him, then he could be a big player for Scotland as well.
So many people will seize on that line that you said there, Paul, and Tony Watt himself says he's maturing. He wants to be considered a top drawer player, and he's been shunted from pillar to post. You mentioned your loan spell as well. Is there something specific you can put your finger on when you say he's got to apply himself?
I don't mean to sound derogative. His intake's pretty slow, and you try and get through to him. Listen, this is what we need from you. This is what we, and it's not in a bad way. There's no malice in them at all. But sometimes it maybe doesn't register what you what you're trying to get through to him, Tony. You know, he'll do things off the cuff, but that makes him great because he's unpredictable what he can do in the ball. So, but if he's put it this way, would you like to see him in Countdown? Probably not.
Yes.
He's not one of the ones you'd put in a university challenge competition.
Yeah, absolutely. It's such a great line.
Trying to put it politely there for him.
but
he's a great lad as well.
Yeah, I've met many a person who wouldn't get on Countdown, Ruffy, who actually was a fantastic player as well. I mean, I don't want to name names, because it's only an hour programme. We could go through to midnight. But in saying that, maybe, and I'll, and maybe he just needs to be in one place, get that feeling of being at home, and then that settled situation that's when he knows he's listening to somebody on a regular basis.
He'll not be the first person that Paul's described. I think every club would have one. It's up to them. It's up to the individual to take on board that if people who have been in the game are giving you that kind of advice, you would just like to think that there's a wee alarm bell rings at some occasion to say, well, I better start listening to people. And you would like to think at this stage of his career, when Gordon Strachan's now brought him back into the Scotland, you would think that would be an alarm bell saying, here, somebody thinks I'm no bad player. I better start listening to what he's saying. So he might be at the stage of his career where this is when it's going to happen for him.
He done great for me. He's one of the kids I think needs to be loved, one of the ones. I don't think Tony's not one of the lads that you can go in and give a rollicking take. I think you feel like you're putting him down.
Yeah.
But he done great for me, and listen, I've got a hell of a lot of time for him. And if he can just get the top of my head sorted, he'll be all right.
I think the key issue here is, footballers receive criticism day in, day out. If you can't work out a 7-letter conundrum, Tony, don't worry about it. As long as you can score goals, phone the gaffer, he'll sort it out. This could get blown out of proportion. He's just put Countdown behind you and just concentrate on scoring goals for Hearts. That's what we're telling you.
I'm just happy I've been on Eggheads.
Yeah. Absolutely. I can see it all coming now. Like Tony's dad throwing things at the telly, going crazy. Anyway, Hearts against Hamilton Accies. Just when I pointed out to you guys about Hearts could go joint top, let's have a look at the table just to see how nicely poised this is. There's Celtic out in top. They've got a game in hand. They face Rangers with a 12 o'clock kick-off tomorrow, and there's Hearts. Depending on the way this all pans out, you never know. They could indeed just sneak in there, and of course they're still in the running, and long may that continue. We need more and more. We need Aberdeen up there. You need teams all taking points off each other to make it competitive, Ruffy. Yeah,
and I think that's the way it will be. Aberdeen did incredibly well for 2/3 of the season, kept it alive when everybody else was sort of a failing. And you'd be hoping another team could do that, and I think you might be right. I think Hearts could be that side, but we need more and more of that competitive right to the end of the season, not just 2/3.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, as far as the rest of the teams are concerned, Ryan Dow has signed for Ross County, Ruffy. There's still players that are out of contract that can still nip into clubs as well.
Yeah, and I'm sure Jim McIntyre, obviously had a wee bit slow start to the season, but they've had a couple of good league wins there. He'll be still looking to identify players that can make his team better, and certainly the wee boy certainly puts in a shift, so I think he obviously identifies that that's the kind of player he's missing. Yeah,
I mentioned the previous clubs that you've played for, and again, with every club that you're at, you always like to keep an eye on them, and I would presume Motherwell are one such club. They're up at Ross County, and Mark McGee, I think he's worked wonders there. A top drawer manager with great experience. Motherwell's been perfect for him.
That's a good club. I mean, as I say again, I was fortunate to be at Motherwell with some really good times when we finished second and third, and the first few years I was there. And
did you not play in Europe with them as well?
We did, yeah. I think the first year that we finished, I think we finished third. I think the first year, and then the second year we finished second, and that was the year Celtic played at Hampden. So and Rangers obviously won the title that year, but we had a few right good years there, and some really good players there as well. Who are sadly no longer here, but that period of my career was a great manager. Tom McLean was excellent when I first went there, and it was good club.
Anybody in that team when they got on countdown?
Nah, they were pretty
all sharp.
pretty no bad there. Pretty no bad.
You know he's going to drag the countdown theme out all the way through the
It's
programme.
the eggheads that's worrying me.
Yeah, absolutely.
By the way,
Did you see him with a shell in his head?
You didn't do too well at it, did you?
I got 2 out of 3.
Yeah.
But I have to hold my hands
What,
up
wrong?
and say no. They were guesses.
Okay, I'm not going to ask you any questions before the end of the programme. Isn't it amazing though? Up here, we're all talking about the games in the Premier League. Just because you've worked down there, to be honest with you, there's a tremendous amount of disdain towards Scottish football, and the focus of attention for them will be the Manchester derby.
No, well, not just that. I think if you look at that game as a whole, you've got 2 of the best managers who don't probably see eye to eye with each other. You've got players on either side that have got something to prove to each other. So it's a cracking game. I mean, that's proper big time football. And I think, especially with the 2 managers being who they are, Pep Guardiola and Mourinho, that it's a cracking game for everybody to see.
Yeah, those 2 are at the same time, Ruffy. It's one of those. One kicks off a wee bit later, but I think it's one of those ones where you start flicking. You know, because the Celtic Rangers thing suddenly has brought the attention.
Well, that's the difference between England and Scotland. I think I would like to think that the majority of people in Scotland will be flicking back and forward, but I think in England they won't.
Yeah.
You know, I think they'll just be quite. They'll be quite content with what they've got. You know, but we'll be the ones that will be want to keep an eye on both games.
Yeah. Okay. Here's a quick look at the fixtures for Saturday in the Premiership here in Scotland, where we will be focusing our attention. There's the 12 o'clock kick-off: Celtic Rangers, Aberdeen against Inverness Cally Thistle, Dundee against Kilmarnock, Hearts against Hamilton, Partick Thistle St Johnstone, and Ross County against Motherwell. By the time the Old Firm game finishes, we will be on air 2 o'clock on STV with Frank McAvenny, Gordon Smith and Alan Ruff. We'll be bringing you all the goals across the entire country in all 4 divisions, and we'll be reflecting on not only the Glasgow Derby but the Manchester Derby as well. Join us after the break. Welcome back to Peter and Ruffy's Sports Week here on a Friday, the extended programme. Alan Ruff is alongside me, Peter Marston, and our bookroom guest is former Celtic and Scotland international Paul Lambert. Of course, we got a good confidence-boosting win under Gordon Strachan against Malta. Hard to believe you're one of those players, part of a Scotland set-up, the last team to be at a major finals. I bet you never thought that would be the case.
No, after this time, you didn't think. And the longer this goes on, Scotland don't qualify, your rankings get lower and you end up in an even tougher group. They've got to start to make headway into it. And to be fair to them, I thought last year were really close. I think that one game was it Georgia?
Yeah.
Which hurt them. And Northern Republic of Ireland came on the outside and done brilliant to get there. But it was in their hands, it was in Scotland's hands really. And that game was the one I think that threw them. But to be fair to Gordon, I think he's got it back on a more happier note. And I think that the group they're in at the minute, they've got a chance. Definitely got a chance. England game's the one everybody want to see, but they've definitely got a chance to make some headway.
Yeah, I mean, I noticed that the Hibs boss Neil Lennon said today that he feels as if, you know, he's questioning the value of under-21 international football because the step up, he feels there's a huge chasm that's very difficult for players to make that leap.
Yeah, Lenny's probably got a point there. I mean, I watched the 21s against Macedonia at Tynecastle. The golf is, listen, if you're going to be brutally honest, it's too big. There's no many of the ones that I seen that night could make the hike into the first team at the minute. Okay, against your better nations.
Yeah, what's the problem then? If you say the golf against Macedonia is too big, the alarm bells are off in my head. What are we doing wrong at that level? Have we not got the technically gifted players? Have we not got the players who are, aware of what it takes to actually, whether it be ball retention or whether it's a strategy of how to play at that level? What is it? Is it something to do with each individual that comes together.
Well, you've not got the players, Peter. They're not coming through.
Yeah.
If Gordon Strachan could pick them, I'm pretty sure he would. And bottom line is, Gordon's got to get results. He's got to get you through a tournament.
Yeah.
For the country's sake as well, he's got to get through. But listen, you won't sit here and tell me some of the 21s are ready to make the mark, maybe against an England or against Slovakia or whatever. If you're young enough and you're good enough, yeah, absolutely get thrown in.
Yeah.
But go and play. Play, no just be happy with the squad. But if you're being reality, the reality is there anybody in the younger kids at the minute can jump up? I've not seen it. I don't know if Ruffy's seen it or yourself have seen it. You're based up here, but I've not seen it, and that's the start reality of it.
Yeah, and you've been at a number of clubs across Europe where you've obviously gone back to Germany to get a refresher course on your coaching at UEFA. You were at Red Bull Leipzig. Suddenly they bought a Scot who's now one of the most expensive players ever.
By the way, a good player. He came on against us last year for Forest against Blackburn. Strong runner. He's got the physical aspect of the game. And if he goes there and embraces that culture and that language and he gets to grip with that, he'll love it, because that setup there was a phenomenal setup which I saw. And they've got really good people there. They play a certain way. They sign certain age groups of players, young players that want to work, want to run, go quicker, all the things that boy's got. So if you look at him compared to the 21s that you saw, there's a night and day difference. Night and day. But Gordon's went, there you go and play and show what you can do. And I watched some of the Malta game. He handled it no problem. He's at a club now where I think his development will come at a rate of knots if he can master that language and master that culture.
Yeah, I think we touched on it at the beginning. It's the level that you're playing at. It's the level that you feel comfortable playing in. If you're at a level up there and coming down to a level, if you're an under 21 and you're playing in the first team or somewhere, I mean, perfect example is Liam Henderson, who is a terrific player, but he's not even in the first team. And you're expecting him to go into an under 21 team and expect him to dominate the game just because he's at Celtic. That's not going to happen. You only improve by playing against better players, and the sooner we start qualifying for finals of tournaments, that's where you gain the experience of playing against better players, and then you feel confident when you come back again.
Well, it goes back to what Robbie Nielsen was saying about, never mind Tony Watt scoring goals for Hearts. He's talking about Callum Patterson. He said, the games, the big games for Scotland and the big games for Hearts will determine what level he plays at in England. If he can stay in that Scotland squad, suddenly by the time he gets to January, he'll already have had, potentially, if he plays in the England game, he could be looking and saying to himself, well, if I play well, it might not just be championship clubs looking at me. Yeah,
but I always think if you want to aspire to be a top player and you want to play at the highest level, people are going to judge you in the big games. So if Scotland, for instance, as I said, playing England, people are going to run the rule over you more against England what they are going to run the rule over you against Malta. Yeah. Yeah, because can you step up against a Rooney, or can you step up against Harry Kane or a Vardy? Can you handle it? Yeah. If you handle it, you come away with flying colours. But if you get turned over, flip side of the coin, you get turned over, people go, not good enough. That's the reality of it. So in the big games, the thing I would say in big games, make sure you perform. And you touched it earlier on, you said to me, how did I do in the Champions League final? Because I knew I had to perform. That's about me.
Just on that point, and it's a very good point, as we approach England games then, should we be looking at 7 points out of before we get to the England game? We've got Lithuania coming up next at home, which potentially, you would hope they could win that one. Yeah.
Well, at home, and I think the way Gordon, the good thing about Gordon, I think Gordon's done, is he galvanised the crowd. He's got the crowd right on his side. He's got the players looking like they want to do it. So, and they've got that momentum from, I think, the last qualifying group, where only the Georgia game let them down, but every other game they were always in it. So I think he's got a wee bit of momentum there. Taking Lithuania on it, it'll be difficult. But if they keep doing what they're doing, I think they can win it. And you've got to get into the England games where you're either level with them or you're breathing down their neck. Just
on the point of the lower leagues, your old teammate in the middle of the park, Neil Lennon, working wonders at Hibs. They're going for the 5th consecutive win in the league this weekend. I think they'll run away with it. Ruffy thinks it'll be tight.
It's a long season. Lenny started brilliant after the. It's great for him because after the Bolton thing, we played against each other as well, and it'd have been tough for him going through that at Bolton. You think, I've not got a chance here. I'm sacked, and been really down, and the way the club was probably going, and then getting the Hibs job after Stubbs had done a brilliant job there, and keeping it going, which is great. So, fair play to him for bouncing back as quick as what he's done.
Yeah, it's going to be a tight division. Wraith Rovers and Queen of the South in the Championship. Certainly, I think it's going to be. They're going to be battling with Dundee United for 2nd, 3rd and 4th this weekend. Crucial one. Dunfermline at home to Dundee United is one of the picks of the games, and St Mirren Queen of the South, Ruffy.
Yeah, and you've left out Falkirk, who have not had a great start to the season, but the expectations on them will be there for everybody. They'll expect to improve on last year. That's why I know Hibs are a good side. That's why I don't think they'll run away with it so easy. I think there's teams there. Dundee United obviously will want to get back in, as I already touched on Falkirk. Queen of the South so far are the team that everybody's talking about.
Okay, would you bet, at the end of the season, taking me and Paul out for a meal, 10 points, Hibs clear?
Okay.
You going for it? And can I just say, he is used to a higher calibre of restaurant than I am, by the way. We're heading to London, you had an answer. Okay, just before you go, Paul, it's been great getting your thoughts. What are your hopes? Obviously, you want to get back into management. Sometimes you can pick a club and it doesn't work out the way you'd hoped. Now, you've got to obviously bide your time. You do,
and that's unfortunate. Game that we're in of you have to wait for somebody to lose their job before you try and get back in. But I enjoy the spare time. It's not when you're in it you think you're 24/7, but when you come out of it you think that you're going to start to enjoy yourself a little bit, and that's why I can go and look at Leipzig or Bayern Munich or Bayer Leverkusen and these sort of teams training, which has been great for me because I've loved it, going and meeting different people and watching different guys train and different coaches train, asking them how they handle things. And as I say, I've been fortunate because when I went to see Carlo Ancelotti when he was at Real Madrid, and what a top bloke he is. I mean, proper. He's asking if you want a coffee and things like that, and you're coaching one of the biggest clubs in the world. It's just an experience to see how top managers handle different occasions. Yeah, listen, it's been a joy listening to you on the programme. Hopefully you'll come back on at some point in the future as well. Great to have Paul Lambert on the programme. I leave you with a 6-letter word, Ruffy, that is for players who can deliver victories. Do you know what that word is?
When you go.
Well, I'm asking you. This is countdown.
And you don't know the answer. Chance have we got? Is there a clock behind us?
No, it's a winner. I wonder who's going to be celebrating tomorrow. From Ruffy, Paul Lambert, myself. Good night.